Alright, so I wanted to show you this bind off. This is the hooded bat that I'm binding off. But I wanted to show you this bind off that I kind of just, this modification of a bind off that I came up with that I'm really, really pleased with how it looks with Brioche. It just is really nice. It's super stretchy, but it also blends in extremely nicely with essentially a knit row and a purl row. And it's equally as pretty on the back side. It's just a really nice bind off that blends in really nicely and is really, really stretchy. It works extremely well with Brioche, so it would work. That's what it looks like right on the edge. And it would work for a Brioche project that you're binding off. Now, this is a modification of the Russian bind off. And it's a modification because the Russian bind off, you knit one, and that one's already in existence, and you have it on your right needle, and then you knit another one, and then you knit those two together through the back loop. However, if I do that, then this purl stitch ends up having a knit. Sorry about all the color changes. It's just the way it is today, apparently. If I do that, it's going to become a knit stitch instead of trying to maintain as long as possible this purl. So what I'm going to do is I have my knit stitch here, or my stitch that's over on the right side. I'm going to purl this instead. So I'm just going to purl it, then I'm going to knit two. Got to have my yarn in the back. Then I'm going to knit two together through the back loop. So I'm going to knit one, which in my case is a Brioche knit one. Knit one, knit two together through the back loop, purl one, purl two together through the back loop. Now, if you're a relatively beginning knitter, you're going to say, well, that's not purling two together through the back loop. Watch. I knit one. Now, if I slip both of these two stitches over, then went in through the back loop of both of them and knit them together, then you could see pretty clearly how that was knit two together through the back loop. So, purl one. Now, if I'm going to knit two together through the back loop, I either have to slide them both over, or it's functionally the same if I just stick my left needle through the front of those two stitches and then knit it. So, knit, Brioche knit, so I'm knitting the knit stitch and the yarn over stitch together. Knit two together through the back loop. Purl, knit two together through the back loop. Knit, knit two together through the back loop. Purl, purl two together through the back loop. How this stitch is started, how this bind off is started, we started midway. And if you need to pause your bind off, this is a really huge bind off. This is like over 450 stitches that I'm binding off. So if you need to pause your bind off, simply take your stitch from your right needle and put it on your left needle, and then you're at a point where you're not going to lose a stitch and you're not going to unravel anything. So if you were just beginning this bind off, you would work your first stitch, work your second stitch, then work those two together. You keep doing that same pattern until you get to the end, and then you bind, and then you just pull your stitch through the last loop. You pull your yarn, you cut your yarn and pull it through your last loop. So this is a really long bind off. Oh, and as I come to stitch markers, this is a good thing to show you guys. As I come to stitch markers, whoops, got to get that. And that's another tricky thing. You don't want to you don't want to knit through the back loop with your yarn in front. You want to make sure your yarn is behind your left needle. And then do your knit through the back loop. I'm just going to take that stitch marker off. Then I'm ready to work my net stitch, which in this case is a brioche knit. Brioche knit meaning I work through my knit stitch and my yarn over stitch at the same time. Then knit those two together through the back loop. Purl, knit two together through the back loop, and just continue on. I've got quite a bit of this done now, but there's quite a bit more to go. Well, I don't have quite a bit done yet. I have some done. There's been increases and decreases in this brioche, so it creates this pointed edge. But my bind off is just continuous, and these are the stitches that I've just bound off, and you can see it's very nice and stretchy to accommodate the brioche. Very lovely stretchy, accommodates this nice squishy stretchy brioche just fine, and it's beautiful on this side, nice on the edge, and equally beautiful on the back side. All right. I hope you found value in this tutorial. If you have, please consider a one-time payment via PayPal or a regular subscription via Patreon. The links are down below and they are on the screen. Again, thank you for joining me. See you next time.